Hello all and welcome back. Working with dates in Microsoft Excel can be quite challenging. Depending on what the short date format is in the regional settings of your PC, Excel can easily misinterpret the dates that you supply to it. For example, look at this date. Now tell me, is this 1st of June 2022 or 6th of Jan 2022? Confusing, right? Some of you will say that it is 1st of June, while some of you will say no, it's 6th of Jan. Both of you are correct, depending upon what is the short date format in the regional settings of your PC. So in this video, what we will do is, we'll briefly visit the short date format in the regional settings. And I will also take you through 11 different date functions, which will make your life a lot simpler while working with dates in Excel. So let's begin. Let's launch the Visual Basic Editor. If you're not sure what Visual Basic Editor is, then I recommend watching the video Visual Basic Editor and Introduction. We will now press the shortcut key Alt F11 to launch the Visual Basic Editor. I have 11 modules here which we will use to understand the 11 different VBA Date functions. The first function that we will cover is Date Function. The date function returns a variant, a date containing the current system date. So let's double click on the first module. I have some code here. Let me explain what this code is doing. So I've declared a variable to hold the date variable. And here I'm saying dt is equal to date. And here I'm displaying the date which is stored in the dt variable. So let's run this. Click on the Run Sub User Form button. Or you can also press the shortcut key F5. When I click on this, see what happens. I get the date. The format of this date is dependent on the short date settings of your regional settings. So let's briefly visit the Windows regional settings and see how that short date looks like. Right click on the Start menu and then click on Settings. In the Settings window, click on Time and Language. Then click on Language and Region. Under the Region tab, click on Regional Format. If you scroll down, you will see that the short date is 262022, which is DDMMYYYY. And to change the format, you can click on this and then it will show you the short date here from where you can change it. We need to know the format of the short date because Excel's date functions will heavily depend on this. So let's go back to Excel. Since our format is DDMMYYYY and hence this is the 2nd of June 2022. Let's click on OK. The next function that we will cover is the DateSerial Function. The DateSerial Function returns a variant, a date for a specified year, month and a day. Let's double click on the second module. I'm going to close this properties window because we don't need this. The syntax of DateSerial is DateSerial year, month, day. The function has these named arguments. Year is an integer number between 100 and 9999. It is inclusive or a numeric expression. Month is any numeric expression. Obviously, it cannot be more than 12. So 1 to 12. Day, any numeric expression. Again, the minimum is 1 and the maximum is 31. You can specify numbers beyond the range, but then you will not get expected results. Let's go back to the code and let's understand what the code is doing. I've got a variable dt for date and I have declared 3 variables d, m and y to store numbers. In d I've stored 1, in m I've stored 6 and in y I've stored 2022, which is the year 2022. To create a date out of these 3 variables, what I do is dt is equal to DateSerial start parenthesis. So if I go here and I press spacebar, see what happens. So the DateSerial is accepting year as integer, month as integer and day as integer. So I have passed my variables y, m and d, and dt then becomes a date. So let's run this. and we get 1st of June 2022. So using DateSerial, we can convert the date, month and year numbers into a proper date. The next function that we will cover is the DateAdd. So let's double click on the third module. The DateAdd function returns a variant date containing a date to which a specified time interval has been added. The syntax of DateAdd is DateAdd interval number date. The DateAdd function syntax has these named arguments. The interval is a string expression which is the interval of time you want to add. I will explain this in a moment. The number is a numeric expression, that is the number of intervals you want to add. It can be positive to get dates in future or negative to get dates in the past. And the last argument is the date. It is the variant date or literal representing the date to which the interval is added. Now coming back to interval. The interval argument has these settings. So on the left side you see YYYY, which is for year, Q is for quarter, M is for month, and so on. So when we go back to the code, I will demonstrate on how to use these interval arguments. Now let's go back to the code and understand what the code is doing. Here I have declared two date variables, start date and end date. And below that I have got two variables, number of days to add and number of months to add. I will use these two variables in a short while. So let's see how DateSerial is used here. So we have start date is equal to DateSerial. We just saw how to create a valid date using DateSerial. So start date now holds 1st of June 2022. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding 10 days to start date to get my end date. So I can actually use this variable here. I can copy this and I can paste it here and I can say equal to 10. And then I can use this variable and I can paste it here. D is for day. Now if I put my cursor here and I press the space button, see it is asking interval as string and I said day. So I'm saying add 10 days to start date. So if the start date is 1st June 2022, if I add 10 to it, it will become 11th June 2022. Let's test this. And we get 11th June 2022. Similarly, you can add years to it. So if I uncomment this and I comment this, so 1/6/2022 will become 1/6/2023 because what we are saying is add year to it. Let's run this. See, 1/6/2023. Similarly, you can add quarters using the Q interval. So when I run this now, it shows 1st of September 2022. It has added a quarter to the 1st June 2022. And if I try to add a month, then it should be 1st of July 2022. See? So remember, to add to date, use DateAdd with the relevant interval argument. Moving on to the next function, which is DateDiff. So like we used DateAdd to add to the date, similarly we can use DateDiff to subtract the dates. Let's double click on the fourth module. The DateDiff function returns a variant long specifying the number of time intervals between two specified dates. The syntax of DateDiff is DateDiff interval date 1, date 2, first day of week, first week of year. The DateDiff function syntax has these named arguments. Interval is the string expression, like we saw for DateAdd, it's the same interval. Date 1 and date 2 are two dates that you want to use in the calculation. The first day of the week is optional. It is a constant that specifies the first date of the week. If it is not specified, then Sunday is assumed as the first day of the week. First week of the year is also optional. It is a constant that specifies the first week of the year. If not specified, the first week is assumed to be the week in which January 1 occurs. So let's go back to the code and let's understand what the code is doing. Here I have two date variables like I had in the previous example, and the third variable is to store the difference between the dates. So what I'm doing right now is I'm storing 1st of January 2021 in the start date, and I'm saying that the end date has today's date. So when I calculate date difference, this is how I do it. Now if I take my cursor and I put my cursor before the double quote and I press space, see what happens. DateDiff is expecting an interval as string, then you have date 1 and date 2. Let's run this. And I get 517 days because I'm using D. Similarly, if I use YYYY, it should give me 1 because only 1 year has lapsed. Similarly, we have Q for quarter. When I run this, it will find the difference of quarters between the two dates. And I get 5. So there are 4 quarters in a year. So last year there were 4 quarters, and this year 1 quarter has passed, so total 5 quarters. And now the months. So this should give me 12 months from the previous year and 5 months from this year. So 17 months. So let's test it. And we get 17. So I hope it is clear how you can use DateAdd and DateDiff to add and subtract from dates. Moving on to the next function, which is DateValue. Let's double click on the 5th module. The DateValue function returns a variant date. The DateValue syntax is DateValue date. The required date argument is normally a string expression representing a date from January 1, 100 through December 31st, 9999. However, date can also be any expression that can represent a date, a time, or both date and time in that range. So let's go back to the code and let's understand what the code is doing. Here I have a variable dt to store the date. I have a date expression as string. So what I'm saying is the date expression is a string, so I'm typing 6/1/2021. And I'm saying date value, date expression, because the moment you press space here, you will notice that the date value is expecting a date which is stored as string. So date value will convert date stored as string to a proper date. So just to check if it's a proper date, what I'm doing is I'm using the format function and I'm showing it as ddmmyyyy. So I will see the date as 6th of Jan 2021. Let's run this. And I get 6th of Jan 2021. Now why did I get 6th of Jan and not 1st of June? Like I mentioned earlier, Excel heavily depends upon the short date format of your regional settings. There I have the format as ddmmyyyy. So obviously this becomes the D, this becomes the M, and this becomes the Y. And hence I am seeing 6th of January 2021. Now I'm going to comment this and I'm going to test the second statement. Here the date is again stored as string, but this time it is June 1, 2021. So let's run this and I get 1st June 2021. So this also works. And finally, what I've done is I've reversed the first date. So obviously now this will show as 1st of June 2021. See? The next function that we will cover is the month function. So let's double click on the 6th module. The month function returns a variant integer, specifying a whole number between 1 and 12, inclusive representing the month of the year. The month syntax is month date. The required date argument is any variant, numeric expression, string expression, or any combination that can represent a date. If date contains null, then null is returned. So let's go back and let's check what the code is doing. Here I have a date variable and I'm storing today's date in the variable. Now if I press space here, see what the month is expecting. It is expecting a date. So let's see what do we get. And we get 6, which is for June. So month returns the month number from a particular date. Now what if I wanted to get the month name rather than the month number? So the code should actually return June. So how do I do that? For that we have a function which is called MonthName, and that is the 7th function which we will cover. So I'm going to double click on the 7th module. The MonthName function returns a string indicating the specified month. The syntax is MonthName, month, comma, abbreviate. The MonthName function syntax has these parts. Month, which is required. It's the numeric designation of the month. For example, January is 1, February is 2, and so on. Abbreviate, which is optional, it's a boolean value that indicates if the month name is to be abbreviated. If omitted, the default value is false, which means that the month name is not abbreviated. So let's check the code. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying message box month name 1. So 1 is for January, so I should get January. See? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this and I'm going to uncomment this. So what I've done is now I have specified a boolean variable which is true. So what I'm saying is show me the month name but abbreviate it. Now let's run this and I'll get Jan. Let's go back. You can also pass month to the month name. So if I uncomment this, what I've done is month name, and since it is expecting a number, I'm using month and then I'm using a date variable. For that, I will uncomment this as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying dim dt as date and I'm storing today's date in the dt variable. And then I'm passing the dt variable to the month variable. So obviously month dt will give me 6 and then the month name 6 will give me June. Let's test this. See? Similarly, I can use the boolean true to abbreviate it in this combination as well. So what I'm saying month name month dt comma true. And when I run this, I get June, which is the abbreviated version. Moving on to the next function. The 8th function that we will cover is weekday. Let's double click on the 8th module. The weekday function returns a variant integer containing a whole number representing the day of the week. The syntax is weekday date first day of week. The weekday function syntax has these named arguments. Date, which is required, it's a numeric expression or a variant or a string expression or any combination like I mentioned earlier that can represent a date. First day of the week is optional. It is a constant that specifies the first day of the week. If not specified, then Sunday is used. The constant for Sunday is VB Sunday. The rest of the settings for the first day of week argument is as follows. VB use system, which is 0. Use the endless API setting. We'll not get into this at the moment. I've hardly used it. VB Sunday, it is for 1, which is default. Similarly for Monday, it's VB Monday. The constant value of VB Monday is 2, and so on till Saturday. The constant for Saturday is VB Saturday, which has a value 7. The weekday function can return any of the values from VB Sunday to VB Saturday. Now let's go back to the code and let's check what the code is doing. Here I have declared the dt variable as date, and then I'm using DateSerial to store a date in that dt variable. Now whatever date is stored in the dt variable, when I pass it to weekday, see if I press space here, weekday is expecting a date. So when I pass that, it will tell me the weekday. So if I run this, it gives me 4, and 4 is Wednesday because the week started with a Sunday. So Sunday is 1st, Monday is 2, Tuesday is 3, and Wednesday is 4. Now if I comment this and uncomment the second one where I am saying no, I don't want Sunday as the first day of the week, I want Monday as the first day. So obviously now the weekday will become 3 because Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, and Wednesday is 3. Let's test this. See? So depending upon whether your Sunday is your first day of the week or Monday is your first day of the week, adjust this value here and then use the weekday function. Moving on to the next function, which is the weekday name. Just like we used month name to get the name of the month, similarly weekday name gives us the name of the week. The weekday name function returns a string indicating the specified day of the week. So let's double click on the 9th module to see how this code works. The syntax of weekday name is weekday name, weekday, abbreviate, first day of week. The weekday function syntax has these parts. The weekday is the numeric designation for the day of the week. Just like we saw in the previous example, numeric value of each day depends on setting of the first day of week setting. The next argument is abbreviate. I've already explained this. It applies here as well. First day of week is optional. I've covered this as well. So let's go back to the code and let's test the code. So this part is the same from the previous example, which is weekday. What I'm doing is I'm storing the date in a DT variable and then I am using the weekday to get the weekday number. So if I run this, I will get 4. Okay. Now I'm going to use this 4 in the weekday name. So I'm going to uncomment this and I'll comment this. So this will give me 4. I'm saying abbreviation is false. And I'm saying first day of the week is Sunday. So if I run this, I get Wednesday. Now why am I getting the complete word? Because I said abbreviation is false. So I will comment this and I'll uncomment this. And when I run this, I get abbreviated word for Wednesday. Now moving on to the 10th function. The 10th function is the day function. So I'm going to double click on the 10th module. The day function returns a variant integer specifying a whole number between 1 and 31, which is inclusive of representing the day of month. The syntax is day, date. Here as well the date argument is any variant, numeric expression, string expression or any combination that represents a date. So let's go back to the code and let's understand what's happening in the code. Here I have a date variable and then I'm storing a date in the date variable using DateSerial. I'm deliberately using DateSerial so that you can see this part. This is the day, this is the month and this is the year. The day function returns the day part of the date. So if I run this now, see what happens. I get first. Similarly, if the day would have been, let's say 26th, and if I would have run this, I would have gotten 26. There are times when you would like to extract the day from the date. In such a scenario, you can use this day function. The last function that we are going to cover is the year function. Just like we used day function to extract the day from date, you can use the year function to extract the year from a date. Let's go to the 11th module. The syntax of year is year, date. I've already explained what the date argument is for, so I'm not going to explain that. Here it's obvious that if I use year dt, it should give me 2022. So if I run this, I get 2022. In scenarios where you want to extract the year from the date, you can use the year function. Time for a quick recap. In this video, we covered 11 different VBA date functions. We also briefly visited the regional settings to see how the short date looks like and if required, how to change it. We also converted a date stored as string to a proper date. We also extracted different parts of the date, for example, the day, the month, the year, and not to mention, we also added and subtracted the dates using DateAdd and DateDiff. If you still have a question, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Or you can also email me on support@tamexcel.com. I hope after viewing this video, your life will become much more simpler when working with dates in Microsoft Excel. I also have a Facebook page. The link is in the description below. So if you have any questions, you can post it there. If I'm online, I'll be more than happy to answer your question. Otherwise, there are other experts who would love to help you out. If you want to extend support towards this channel, now considering that I post 2 videos every week, one on Monday and one on Thursday, then go ahead, watch a couple of videos, drop a couple of likes. And if you're really serious about learning Microsoft Excel VBA from scratch, then go ahead and watch the playlist, because that is where I have placed the videos in a particular sequence. So yes, watch them, drop likes, and if you still have not subscribed to this channel, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel by clicking on the bell icon. And I will see you in the next video when I bring to you 8 different time functions.